We left off last video getting the whole communication pattern with coordinators done for our scanned barcode. Well, now we want to do that again with alerts, but first we want to kind of set up the structure of our alerts. You'll see why in a second, because there's kind of two ways to do alerts. One's pretty basic and one is more involved. And the more involved one is actually what you're probably going to use in like real apps, and you'll see why. So let's start with the basic alert here. And we'll just do this on a quick button tap. So after our text, add a button. This is just temporary. We're not going to keep this button here. So label, this will be a text. I know there's a quicker way, but I don't care. I'm just doing this temporarily real quick. Tap me, right? And on this, we want to show an alert. And again, whenever you want to update your UI, you need a state variable here. So you can do @state private var is showing alert, and that can equal false at first. So in our button tap, we just want to make this true, is showing alert equals true. So that is the trigger to show our alert. Again, this is the super basic way. This is kind of a side note I'm showing you. We're going to build the more involved way. But I want you to know this because sometimes you may just need this simple way. So now we want to put the alert on our VStack here. We can do .alert, and then you see it's item in content or is presented. So the more involved one involves an item. We'll do that later. Right now, we just want is presented. And the is presented we want is the binding to is showing alert. And then the content we want to show, capital A, to initialize an alert. And you can do, right, title, test, message. This is a test. Dismiss button. We'll do .default, and you see it takes in a text. So we'll do text of just, okay. Okay, so just a super dead simple alert. And maybe you can start to see what's going to happen here. As soon as I tap me, is showing alert is going to flip to true. And because this alert is kind of watching is showing alert, it's going to show when that gets flipped. And I forgot, this is not just a string. I need to do text. Used to kind of the UI kit way. This is the Swift UI. I got to wrap it in a text. So there we go. Okay, so that should be the default alert. I'm going to run this on the simulator because it's a pain to show you my phone with the camera. So let's run it on the iPhone 12 Pro, and then you'll see the alert pop up. Well, I think we'll get an alert for the camera not working. Which I think we tested before. Nope, that's a lie. We haven't connected that yet. That's what we're doing this video. Getting a little mixed up. Okay, so you see our tap me button down here. I'm gonna move this over here. So I'm gonna do tap me, bam, there's the test alert, test, this is a test. And then when you hit okay, it automatically dismisses. You don't have to like set up the dismissal. So again, tap me, alert, bam. That is the super basic way. Just on an event, you do is presented based on that state variable, cool. When you do it based on an item, it triggers when that item changes, and we'll do that here. So let's get rid of this alert for now, because we're gonna set some stuff up. Let's get rid of this button. Told you that was just temporary. And then let's get rid of our is showing alert variable. However, we are going to need an alert item. So we can do @state private var alert item, and that is gonna be of type alert item that we don't have yet. Let's create that. I'm gonna create that right here for now. Just so it's all very visual for you. You can see what's going on. We're going to come back and like obviously organize this. So we can make a struct called alert item and give that the properties, right? The properties we need on alert item well, I deleted it, but it was like a title, a message, and a dismiss button. So we can do let title, that is a string. Let message, also a string, and then let dismiss button, and that is going to be an alert.button. And basically, I'm just recreating that autocomplete that you saw before on the alert. So that is our alert item. So now this is of type alert item. There we go. And it's going to be optional because we don't have an alert item yet. We're not sure which one it is. And we're going to build our alert item based on whatever error type we pass in. Back to the scanner VC. You remember we had our camera error. Well, that's what we're going to use to determine what information goes in our alert item. And here we're going to create another small struct. Again, this will go in its own file later. Struct called alert context. And this is another kind of helper shortcut. You'll see how we use it here very quickly. But this is where we basically create our alert items. Static let invalid device input equal is going to be an alert item that we just created. So alert item, parentheses, and you see I get a title message string. So the title, we can say invalid device input, and then bring our parameters down here on the same level. Message, again, we're just going to copy and paste the message that we already typed from our scanner VC here, right? Remember I said we're going to come back and get rid of these raw value strings. It's because we're using it here in our alert context. And if you're a little confused, not following along, I think this will all come together in the end, and I'll come back and explain it. So if you're not quite following along, it's all good. So there's our message. And then again, our button, we want to have .default with a label of text OK. That's what we want. And whatever you want your button to say, you can say that. So let's copy and paste this because we have two types of alerts, right? We have our invalid scan type. So let's do that. Say invalid.scanned, and be careful of copy paste errors. They'll get you every time. So here in the title, we can change this to invalid scan type. And then again, back in our scanner VC, we'll copy and paste that message. Whoops, in our barcode scanner view. Here's the message, and then we want our button to be okay. So what this is an example of is usually in a bigger project, you're gonna have tons of alerts, right? Network calls, different types of errors, so many different errors in a project. So I usually have an alert context file that has like a ton of these, right? We're only using 2 for this example, but you'll see how this makes it very, very easy to call certain alerts. Again, I'll put it all together and we'll do the review. But again, what's happening is we're creating individual alert items based on our error here. So now we can go back to scanner VC. Let's get rid of this just for cleanliness here. We no longer need a raw value of a string. And we're probably going to get an error because it's expecting to read that raw value. Do Command B, build failed. Yep, that was expected. Click on the error. Yep, camera has no raw value. So we'll just, for now, print the empty string just so we don't get an error. We're going to come back and obviously implement that here in a second. So now back to our barcode scanner view, which is holding our alerts. That's the setup. So now what I want to do in my barcode scanner view, again, create that alert again, just like we did last time. But instead of the is presented, we're going to use the item. And the item is going to be a binding to our alert item property here on our barcode scanner view. Now what you'll notice here is it says binding identifiable. So that means it has to be identifiable. So if we go back to our alert item, let's conform the alert item to identifiable. And if you remember, when you conform to identifiable, what do you need to do? You need to do let ID equals UUID to give it an ID, something to identify it by. So now that alert item conforms to identifiable, we can create the binding here, binding alert item. And then again, the autocomplete will get you sometimes. So the alert item, we want to do open bracket, alert item in. Okay, so now here's we want to build that alert that we built previously. So we do capital A for alert and then initialize it. And again, we want a title, message, dismiss button, right? Now you can kind of see why I structured my alert item, title, message, dismiss button, right? So title is going to be the alert item that we get back here, alert item dot title. Same thing, alert item dot message. And we can, for cleanliness here, let's do this. And then alert item dot dismiss button. Okay, do Command B. Hopefully we don't have any more errors. We do have errors. Again, I keep forgetting to wrap this in the text. Text. There we go. Now we're good. Okay, so again, what's going on here is our alert is waiting to see what alert item it gets. And when it gets an alert item, right, we have it here. Now we're setting the alert's title, message, and button to whatever alert item we passed in. And if you look up here, the 2 alert items we created in our alert context are the invalid device input alert and then the invalid scan type alert. And a quick note about alerts, the reason why you have to do this is because you can't have more than one alert on an item, right? I can't like do .alert and create another one, for my different cases. That's not going to work. You have to have one. So that's why you create one alert and then pass in variable context into like what the alert is. So now let's actually use our alert context, right? How are we going to pass our barcode scanner view? Like we have to update this alert item, right? So remember our communication path, right? UIKit to coordinator to scanner view. Well, let's go to our coordinator because our coordinator has our alert information right here, right? We have the error type. That's all we need. We just need to know what error type it is. But again, we have to communicate from the coordinator to the scanner view, what's going on. So here in our scanner view, let's create a binding. And again, I'm going to run through this again and hopefully it'll make sense if you're a little lost. So this coordinator thing is tricky the first couple times you do it, but after that, you get the hang of it. So we want an alert item. And again, that is a type alert item. That is optional. Command B, we're going to get an error because we need to now initialize our scanner view with an alert item. Where's our scanner view initialized? On our main barcode scanner view. Here it is, scanner view. Remember, we passed in the binding to the scan code. Now we need to pass in the binding to the alert item. So when we update the alert item in the coordinator, this alert item gets updated. You're following this trend here? When this alert item gets updated, this alert triggers and shows the proper alert. That's kind of the path here. Again, we'll go over that once everything's all built. So missing parameter, go ahead and hit the fix it. It'll fill that in for you. So I need a binding to an alert item. So again, $ to binding, alert item. Okay, so now I'm passing that binding down to my scanner view, right? So now I need to update this alert item so the whole chain triggers off here. Well, I'm going to update that in my coordinator, right? Remember, my coordinator was listening to the UI kit. My UI kit camera view is saying, here's the error. So now my coordinator needs to pass that error to the scanner view. So here, we're just going to switch off the error type. Switch error, right? That's what we get. And on case dot invalid device input, we want to do, well, let's put in the two cases first, right? Case dot invalid scanned value, right? So when it's invalid device input, we want to update the alert item properly, right? Because that's what's going to trigger the whole chain of events. Now here's where our alert context comes in. We can do alert item. I'm sorry, not just alert item. Remember, scanner view dot alert item. I forget that a lot too. So if you're forgetting that, and remember that scanner view is the scanner view we had to pass in and put to our coordinator so it knew which scanner view to update. Now here's where the nice alert context comes in. We can do alert context dot invalid device input, right? So the alternative to that, well, let me finish off here. Scanner view dot alert item equals alert context dot invalid scan type. So the alternative here is to define our alert here. Well, you saw, if I go back to my scanner view, like you saw how messy this alert code is, right? We want to get that abstracted away in its own file, which it will be next video. But back to our scanner view, like it's nice and neat here, right? So did surface error is going to come up. All we're passing up is the enum case, right? I'm either passing up invalid device input or invalid scan value. Here in my coordinator, I know that, okay, cool. When it's invalid device input, I'm going to tell my scanner views alert item, hey, use this alert item, which is the invalid device input alert item, again, that we created right here. So it has all that value. It has the title, the message, the dismiss button. So back to the scanner view. Again, this updates our scanner view's binding to alert item, which again is bound to this alert item in our barcode scanner view. So this is going to update when that whole communication pattern fires off. When this updates, this is going to trigger, and this is going to update with the proper alert. So now when I run this, and I think I've tried to test this 3 times now. Now when I run this on the simulator, well, okay, what's the error? Okay, previews. Told you, previews are going to get you every time and when you update stuff. And they're kind of like meaningless. Like our scanner view doesn't even have a preview. In fact, get out of here. So you can see my frustration with previews sometimes. So now let's run this on the simulator. Because our simulator doesn't have a camera, we should get an error message pops up. There you go. Invalid device input. Something is wrong with the camera. We're unable to, right? Because we're on a simulator. So now you can see our errors propagating from UIKit to the coordinator, from the coordinator all the way up, through our bindings to the scanner view to the barcode scanner view to properly update our UI. So I know that's like a long chain of communication, but how do you feel about coordinators? Again, think of a coordinator as the middle relayer, the translator between UIKit and your Swift UI views, right? The UIKit view controller communicates with the coordinator via delegates, and the coordinator communicates with Swift UI, just like a little middle person, if you will. Now, this can be a tricky topic. I get it. So if you have questions, definitely leave comments. If you have questions about AV Foundation and the camera, look it up. I'm not going to act like I'm a pro. So kind of save those questions. Keep it to the coordinators and the passing of the data. But in the next video, we're going to implement our view models for this and clean up our project organization and do any last little bit of review.